life is just too big for us to micromanage. And I have seen and worked with many, many women that they are exhausting themselves trying to micromanage every aspect of their life and their spouse or their significant other or their partner or whatever. And they're insane over it because we can't do it. It doesn't work. And it's exhausting.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. Today's episode is sponsored by the GoingNorthPodcast.com shop. And if you head over to the wonderful website, cop some merchandise, take a selfie with you rocking the gear, shoot it to yours truly, the host, Dom Brightman at gmail.com, and I will give you a shout out on the show as well, and heck, even tag you on social media as well. So feel free to check out some of the good old merch on GoingNorthPodcastShop.com. Now let's get on with some super special, awesome content. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great Glorious and Glamorous, is the Going North podcast. We got another super special, awesome guest that probably fits all three of those G's and more, and the cherry on top because it's the era of returning guests, baby. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Last time we had this guest on the show, it was, my God, almost 450 plus episodes ago, and now voila, she's back and better than ever because she's got a new shiny book. That's right indeed, it's shiny. That's right indeed, it's shiny. It's good for the hiney indeed because she is an award-winning author, y'all, a fellow child of the king, as well as a mother, a wife, and an encourager of all. So let's give it up for Miss LB herself, the lovely and beautiful Lisa Boucher. How you doing today, Lisa?
I'm well, Tom. Thank you. Thank you for that sweet introduction. I love your enthusiasm. And I can't believe that it's been 400 and some episodes ago, you said, that you have taped since we last talked. That's insane. You're really killing it with your podcast. So kudos to you.
Oh, yeah, that's right indeed. All the kudos, all the special K, especially you too, because you're one of the folks that helped to make it happen. That's
All
right indeed.
right. Well, I'm happy to have been one of your earlier guests. That's really cool that you're still going strong.
Oh, yeah, that's right indeed. This is the Snickers bar that's everlasting.
All right.
But hey, it ain't just about chocolate, caramel, and nuts. It's about the lovely Lisa. You're back with the new book indeed. So my goodness, like what led you to finally come back and decide to write book number 2?
Well,
Or should I say book number 5, actually, if I'm
no,
not
this is
mistaken.
book number 6. But my first 4 books, I was telling someone the other day, my first 4 books, I think, taught me to write. I didn't do a lot with them, just kind of didn't do anything with them, like as far as try to market them. And one of them still a complete mess sitting in the computer. But I learned how to write through those first 4 books. And then my last book, Raising the Bottom, that we talked about, that, of course, was about women and alcohol and men, too. And that book was the first book that I actively tried to do anything with. And I think it went really well. So fast forward, here we are. The new book is Pray, Trust, Ride, Lessons on Surrender from a Cowgirl and a King. And the king is King Jehoshaphat in 2 Chronicles. So this book is based on my trail rides. I guess I go, I'm a cowgirl. I really am. I'm a cowgirl at heart, Dawn. And I was saying to someone, I've been to some amazing places all over the world, but my favorite place in the world is a barn. I love being in a barn. That's what resonates with my soul. That's where I'm happy. I had a horse as a kid and I fell in love with horses back then. And I never stopped that love affair. But I live in Ohio in a place where there's just not a lot of, there's a lot of English riding or saddlebreds, but I like the cowgirl stuff. So I had to hike out to Wyoming to get my cowgirl experiences. And I found a couple ranches that were not dude ranches or not, hidey-ho downs, but the first one I went to actually was with some hard drinking, hard riding cowboys. And we were working hard because we were helping this coalition of ranchers move their cattle. Like there used to be 25 in this coalition, and it had dwindled down to like 9 ranches. So they have all these cows and they need help bringing them from, spring pastures down lower in the fall, or rounding them up into when they're gonna, do what they do, which I hate to think about that part, the fate of these cattle. But it's a way of life for them and it's a business. So that's where a lot of the rides are based on in my book. And some of them are funny that, like, I'll just give you a brief little idea. Like I'll give you 2 little short stories because this is a very different book. It's shorter, like the longest chapters, probably 6 or 7 pages. I wanted it for people that if you get in that funky mindset, I wanted you to be able to open to any page and read something to maybe snap you out of it. I mean, I know that's a tool that has worked for me. As Dom, I'm in recovery, so our minds can get to whirling like, that hamster on the wheel. And so I wanted a book for moms to put in their car or their purse, for dads to put it in their car, for, anybody, everybody can hopefully relate to this because, who doesn't love the lure of the West? Animals, nature. I related a lot of it back to that. And then, so I combined my 2 favorite things, horses and God. And I really, when I stumbled over this little prayer of Jehoshaphat, I was like, wow. I mean, it's short. It's a short little prayer. And shame on me for not have memorized it. But let me find it for you really quick here. And I do want to read it because it's short, but it's so powerful. And it says, it's in 2 Chronicles 20. Lord God of our fathers, are you not the God in heaven? And do you not rule over all the kingdoms of the nations? Here's the golden sentence. I mean, it's all good, but it's showing, like, it's just pointing out God's power that, I know I forget that. And the last sentence is, in your hand is power and might, and no one can withstand you. In your hand is power and might, and no one can withstand you. And I don't know how, I'm not going to claim to be any kind of Bible scholar because I'm absolutely not. I did read the Bible cover to cover one year. I said, that is what I'm going to do. Did I understand all of it? No. But when I found this prayer, there was something about, I was just like, you know what? It just, where you get that little flicker, like, I need to do something with this. So that's kind of how it came about. And then I'm combining this with life on the trail, because there's so many times, like this prayer, I feel like it's telling us to let go. And so life on the trail, there are times when you really have to just let go and just trust God is going to get you through it. And one of them was the first time I went out there, I had no idea what I was getting into. I'm in Wyoming and at this ranch with, like I said, these cowboys, and we were riding in terrain, like really rough terrain in Bighorn Mountains, trying to find these cows. And there were a couple of times, we're on a footpath that's about 2 feet wide, and I turn my head to the left and you're practically kissing the mountain, and you look to the right and there's a sheer drop. I mean, talk about my heart sinking. So I had to just there was no steering to be done. One of those let go, and I'm trying to let my rational mind take over that, okay, this horse doesn't have a suicide wish, and I'm just gonna let go of the reins. Right? Isn't that what we have to do in our lives, Dom? I mean, have you ever felt that, where you just have to let go because pushing the river is no longer going to work?
Oh yeah, I could say that again.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many instances. And there was another one where, we're riding and it's like you had to go down this steep incline. There's a raging river and then up another steep incline. So the cowboys are pushing these cattle. They're all going down. So the bank of the river is just coming up, is just a mud mess, as you can imagine. And the cowboys are on the other side of the river, and I'm still over on the one side of the bank assessing the situation because, I'm a nurse. We like to assess. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not going down there. This is crazy. And they're on the other side and they're yelling over to me like, come on, Lisa. I mean, I had no choice. There was just no other option. So again, I had to let go of the reins. I thought, this horse has been working cattle probably for most of his life. He knows we got to go down, we got to go through that water, and we're going to come back up. And I'm going to give him his head, give him all the rein he needs so that he can pull himself out of this mud and this muck and get up. And that's what I did. And so the theme of letting go is a thread that runs through the whole entire book.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's pretty interesting. It's like, oh, yeah, this prayers are hosted fast. Like, oh, the focus of the whole book, and then tying in your personal experiences throughout and keeping the chapters nice and short for us humans who have us where the goldfish and the squirrels beat us in terms of attention spans now. It's like, yeah, that's right, indeed. That's right,
Well, that's
indeed.
true because not everybody wants to read a 300-page book. Like sometimes you just, like I said, you want something that you can bite off a piece just to get you out of a mindset. So that was kind of the intention that I had set, is that our minds, I don't know, okay, I'm not going to say our, I'm going to say my mind can get really discombobulated at times. And it's just really great. That has been a great tool for me, is prayer, and to find something to take me out of that crazy mindset and get focused again. So that's what I wanted to offer to people.
That's right, indeed. Get focused again, indeed. So my goodness. So speaking of focus, I'm pretty sure you needed focus to finish this book and come back and write another book, indeed. So what was the, I guess, impetus behind writing this book when you already had a bunch of success with the last book?
Well, like I said, I kind of wanted to shift a little. I mean, I've talked about recovery and alcoholism for 3 or 4 years now. And I just felt God kind of prodding me. Okay, I'm just going to come out and say it. I feel like the world has gotten too secular. There's a lot of God bashing going on. And I just thought, I felt like a calling, like God is asking us everyday people to rise up and start speaking out. And that's what I want to do with this book, that I want to speak in favor of God. I want to bring, people to Jesus Christ in a way that maybe you can relate to through stories of nature and being a cowgirl. And there's no more time when you need God than when you are out on the trail. And there's just so many, uncertainties, the weather, the this, the that can happen. So that really is, I think, my motive, that I was shifting. I felt this very real shift in my spirit, that I want to be a champion for God. This is what's important to me now. Recovery will always be important to me, and saving human souls will always be important to me. But for many of us in recovery, we find our way through that spiritual connection. And so that is what I grabbed onto, and I had a circuitous route back to the God of my childhood. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and then I did all that then right in my drinking years. And then before I got sober, and even after I got sober, I took a 10-year hiatus of reading about different religions and whatnot. And what it really brought me back to is it's all the same God. It's one big God. So we can call it whatever religion we want. We can, go whatever avenue, but it is the same. There is one God. And so that is the God that I want to celebrate and that I want to talk about. And I want to bring into the conversation so others can find the healing that comes from that spiritual connection. And I think we tend to forget how important that is. And like I said, I really just felt this, it's just, I was just tired of the God bashing, I guess. So when that little prayer, like I said, it just kind of touched me. That little prayer woke something up in me. And I was able to combine my two loves with the horses, and because nature, that is kind of what also brought me back to God, is realizing it's hard to live in nature. The seasons, I don't know where you live, Dom, if you're, in sunny Florida all the time or somewhere like that, or somewhere where the seasons, but the orchestration of the universe really is perfect. And no human power can orchestrate that. I realize some people say it's science, but I think when atheists have delved into science because they didn't believe, they came to believe, kind of like Albert Einstein, when you realize the precision with which the universe is put together. I mean, there is a mathematical precision there that only a divine creator could have orchestrated. So that has helped many people come to Jesus and come to find a God of their understanding. So what better way than to combine these two in a lighthearted way, in a way that's not heavy, that's not full of, dogma and teachings, because I'm not a teacher, I'm not a Bible scholar. So anybody can go through the Bible and have something jump out at them that can be very meaningful. So, that's another thing I wanted to make very clear, because I'm not a Bible scholar. It's not like you need to be any, have a certain set of knowledge to find these little nuggets in the Bible. What jumps out, jumps out. So that's kind of what brought it about, if that all makes sense.
Well, yeah, it makes sense indeed, especially nowadays, because you're so right. There is a lot of, I guess, God bashing in a way, as well as a lot of diving into a whole bunch of other types of religions, thanks to the internet making a big, small world a lot smaller, where everybody can absorb information from all these different places. And it can be kind of hard to stay focused if you're not truly grounded in your beliefs. I'm pretty sure setbacks have probably taught you how to have stronger faith. So, has there been any moments in the past few years that have stuck out to you as one of those moments that actually strengthened your faith?
I think it's been, Dom, I think it's been kind of the opposite. I think it's been a struggle. I mean, there's been a lot of struggle with the last few years. And I think, does that strengthen my faith? Maybe so. It's not like things have been so great that I have all this faith. It's having faith when things are hard. And I feel like that's kind of where I've landed the last few years. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that this, I'm just really relishing in it and I love it and it's wonderful. But maybe that is part of the journey and part of getting us strong, because it's very easy to have faith when things go great. And it's very easy to have faith when, we're riding a huge wave, right? I mean, yeah, it's when things, and I kind of like mislead that it's been like, oh, terrible, but I've had a lot of, personal struggles, things that I worry about within the family, things like that. Writing the books, marketing the books. I mean, none of it is easy at all. And I keep going because I feel that God push, even though things, and I don't really feel I've had my breakthrough where it just feels easy. It's never felt easy. Some of the writing process for me has felt easy, like Raising the Bottom to write that book was super easy, writing it. But that's only half the battle, because then you got to market it. And then, hopefully people love it. And are helped by it, which I know people were helped by it. And that's a great feeling, when you have people contact you on social media and saying, thank you for writing that. It got me sober, or it led me to the rooms of recovery, or whatever. I've gotten many, many, many messages like that. And that is gratifying, because every soul that changes their life, I'm very acutely aware there's children on the backside for so many. And my story, Dom. I was a child of an alcoholic, and I can't think of anybody going, well, what about the kids? It was a mess, and nobody was really saying, well, what about the kids? And so I've never lost sight of, when we help these men and women find recovery, that also changes the lives of their children, or even if they have nieces and nephews or whatever. So, I believe that is a big purpose that I have. I do have a heart for children, and I've, invited kids into my home, and one little girl lived with me for 2 years, and because she had a bad situation. And so that is very important to me. It's like, we cannot forget about the children. And, but like I said, so this journey has been a journey, not always easy, but God keeps pushing me on, even when, I will tell you, I walked away from writing for like 3 years. I was so angry with God. I was sick of it. And I said, I am done. I'm done. I'm not writing another book. And that was after the book, Jesus, Mo, and Cheese Puffs, which is a cute fiction, Christian fiction book. It's adorable. And I just said, I'm done. I'm not going to write. And then 3 years went by. I don't think I wrote a word. And then out of the blue, there it comes, and it's like God pulled me right back, because I woke up one day and the Raising the Bottom was in my head. And it was like like somebody had just put a banner in my head, and I could not write it, if that makes sense. I was so compelled to write it, and so those are the kind of experiences I've had. And I'm still very frustrated with a lot of it. In a lot of ways, I'm like, okay, God, what is this about? Why do you keep having me write book after book? And going out there and doing my best to market it, and like, am I making a difference? I don't know. I hope so, but there's so many unknowns and things that I can't quantify, and I just have to take the next step that feels right.
Oh yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed, because there's some lurkers out there who are too shy to say anything. It's like, oh, you helped them out and you may never know. That's right indeed, because they're too shy. They want to stay in a turtle shell and be like, woohoo, I feel helped. I don't want to let them know, though. They might think I'm creepy, but, I want to be here in the darkness, be like, yeah, I'm encouraged, I'm empowered indeed. So my goodness, a 3-year break led to that wonderful Raising the Bottom, the award-winning book. That's right indeed. And now I got this new book out indeed. So in between Raising the Bottom and this book, have there been any skills you've been polishing over the past few years to make yourself a better Lisa?
I've been polishing the skill of letting go, Dom. I mean, that is the biggest hurdle. And I think that also did, bring a lot of the book, with letting go of the things in our lives that we can't control. That serenity prayer is golden. And, the big thing for me, probably most parents, is my grown kids. I still want to hang on, and, they're both married, and I have 2 granddaughters now. So I have to let go of, there's things. They're doing a great job, by the way, but there's, it's just the worry in that. And I find myself, really, that's what I've been working on the most to be a better me, is to focus on God, focus on the things I can do to make myself feel more peaceful, to help others, to just kind of stay in my own lane and pray for my kids and my grandkids. I mean, that's really the most that I can do, and be there for them. And I've taken some trips out west to nurture my soul in the saddle, because that is where I had a great trip in August, this past August, in Montana. I mean, my book takes place mostly in Wyoming, but I went to this great ranch in Montana and had a wonderful time met some great people. The riding was fantastic. Now, we didn't do a lot of cow work because, you know, rode up to check fences and check on a calf that had a broken leg and things like that. But, the cows aren't always moving around, and sometimes they're just there grazing and getting fat. So it was an easier trip. The days weren't as long and the riding wasn't quite as hard because they were not so high up. But that is, that's my peaceful place. I mean, it really is. That's where I find peace. That's where my soul connects, is just being out there in the wild and, that big sky country over your head. The horses, like I said, it's my favorite place in the world to be, is these, in this ranch. I was at, this barn felt so old, like it'd been there. It was a 4th generation ranch. So it's been there, I don't know, it was probably the 1900s, and it felt that old in this barn. And I just love it. I just absolutely love it. So that has been, trying to be a better person by staying in my lane, letting go and letting God, practicing what I'm preaching, I guess I should say, is letting go, because that is the big focus, turning it over to God, these hard things in our life that we can't control, Dom. We have to let go of, or it just makes us crazy. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. That's right, indeed. It's funny how you mentioned letting go as a skill, because when you think about it, actually kind of is when you think about it. Because funny enough, more stuff does to come to you when you let go, focus on something else. The thing you're originally looking for comes finding its way to you.
That's true. It is true. There's that prayer, I forget how it goes, about the broken toy, but it's like, my child, I can't fix it because you never did let go, kind of thing. It's an analogy. So yeah, I mean, it's just letting go of the things that we can't control. And it's usually the big things in life. I think we're all a little delusional thinking we have all this control, because yeah, you can say you have control of what you want to wear, what are you going to eat, that kind of thing. But the things that really matter, life, death, sickness, health, accidents, we have no control. I mean, there's certain things we can do to, be careful, prevent them, put your seatbelt on, but life is just too big for us to micromanage. And I have seen and worked with many, many women that they are exhausting themselves trying to micromanage every aspect of their life and their spouse or their significant other or their partner or whatever. And they're insane over it, because we can't do it. It doesn't work. And it's exhausting. It's just so exhausting. And I think that's probably a big reason why I started, drinking over the things that I couldn't control. And you're trying to push the river, like I like to say. We cannot push the river. It's going to flow the way it's going to flow. And I'll tell you a quick little story. I had this kayaking near-death experience this on Memorial Day. And that was another situation. I don't know, maybe I'll write about it someday, but it was really scary. Was in a fast moving river. I'll just tell you, listen to your gut. I was with a bunch of people. We weren't with an outfit or anything. A friend of mine had showed me these pictures of this beautiful place in Southern Ohio. And I'm like, oh, that looks beautiful. I want to go there sometime. So there was a bunch of them going, and I went. Hour and a half drive from where I am. They had a bunch of kayaks because I don't own a kayak. And so we get there and the river is fast. And my gut says, oh, this is not a good idea. And there's this little dam. And so I start off with getting in this raggedy canoe with my friend husband,
Oh,
because
dang.
oh yeah, it was the most raggedy canoe. I've been canoeing before, but this canoe was so unstable. We don't make it 100 yards, literally. And it's like, oh, this isn't going to work. I mean, I'm having to really, dig into that core strength to keep, because it was so wobbly. And there was a woman there, and she's like, I'm a really good kayaker. Do you want mine? She had this nice, stable, bigger kayak. I'm like, sure, that'd be great. Because my friend was going to put me in one of those skinny kayaks that like racers use. I would have never made it. So this woman took that one. So I get in her kayak. And it's fast. The river's incredibly fast. There's people ahead of me in this group of 13. There's people behind me, but I am like kind of going down the river by myself, and I'm having to work really, really hard just to stay afloat and not crash into debris. And oh my gosh. So fast forward, after about an hour and a half, my arms are getting tired. I'm getting tired. I'm about had enough, and I see no end in sight. And all of a sudden, I hear this woman screaming. She's in chest deep water, hanging onto a tree, trying to call 911. She thinks her friend has drowned. And while I take my eyes off the thing, she's screaming for her friend and 911. I don't know how she got her phone to work or how it wasn't sucked out of her hand. And I go down the river a little bit, and I see a woman up, and it's a very wild place. Like there wasn't like there was grassy banks or anything. And I see this woman up there in the wild, and I yell up, are you Shayna? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay, thank God the girl's not drowned. And my friend who kind of put this all together had a whistle, which was brilliant for your listeners. If you ever go kayaking, bring a whistle, because that's how 911 found them. Was they kept blowing the whistle, because like I said, this was a very wild place. So I'm going down. Well, when I took my eyes off the river to look at that girl, whatever, I broadside crash, tip over. Now I'm in the raging river. I'm getting smashed down again and again and again. Finally, I get up. Thank God I wasn't cabrewing and that I was sober, because I had to make some decisions. And I had to decide, which way am I going to go? I'm literally in the middle of the river. To the right of me is this whirlpool thing. To the left of me, I have to cross the river, but I see a really big log. And then beyond that log are sheer granite cliffs with nothing to grab on. And I had to make the decision and fight my way across that river. And the river's pushing me down, and I'm trying to fight my way back so I can grab that log and hang on. And by the grace of God, I was able to do that. And I had to cling to that log for an hour before I was rescued in this raging, rushing river. And, hanging on to that log for an hour, you have some time to think. And I'm sitting there going, wow, did that go south really fast? And I'm thinking, the people that are rescuing the people behind me, I'm going to see them, they never come. You know who comes after an hour? Here comes the raggedy canoe. I said, you've got to be kidding me. So I had to get back in that canoe, and we had to, go through. And oh my God, it was so scary. The whole thing was scary. There was this little area where we could unload. I said, get me out of this river. So then I had to walk 1.5 miles with a broken toe, bare feet up a thing to get, it was a disaster. But, here again, it ties into what we're talking about, that like, you have to let go and do the best you can. And I'm very grateful that I wasn't drinking, so I was able to make good decisions. I'm very grateful that I'm in halfway decent shape, so I had the strength to fight my way across that river. And I learned a week later, when my friend, she called that night, she goes, are you okay? We made the newspapers, like the whole debacle was in the newspapers about fast water rescue, 911, the whole thing. For those two women, the Shayna and the other girl who was in the chest deep water, what they did is they dropped ropes, got those two ladies out, and then went home. They didn't come downriver to see if anybody else was in trouble. So yeah, it was really, really scary. But, there again, it was like I had to lean on God. I was praying, believe you me, I was praying my way through that whole thing. And it is kind of cool though, because my mom passed away back in 2011, and she always said she'd come back as a butterfly. While I'm hanging on that log, the first 15 minutes, this yellow and black butterfly is just circling my head. And I'm clinging on. Is that you, Mom? Is that you? It was really kind of neat. I feel like she wanted to make sure I was going to be okay. And she knew once I was clinging to the log, I would be, because I knew there were people behind me and they were going to have to come, past me, and they would find me. But it was super scary experience. So I felt very grateful grateful to be alive. Like it hits you like a week later because, you're not processing like how dangerous this really was. Maybe a few days. Yeah, a few days, a week later, I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, that could have been so bad. And I guess there in our area, there were like 5 drownings that weekend because we'd had a lot of rain.
Ooh.
We'd had a lot of rain and really, and I
Mhm.
guess we learned later when, I had to hike up that hill and get out of there. And my friend said, just get to the main road and we'll find you. And we ran into these hikers and they said, well, yeah, we were going to kayak and then we checked the flow rate. So to your listeners, there is such a thing as a flow rate. Check it before you go canoeing or kayaking, because I'm sure if we were with an outfit, they would have not gone out that day because the flow rate was way too fast. It was very dangerous water. We had no business being in there. So I'm here to tell the tale.
That's right. Here to tell the tale with all the tales, baby. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Well, glad you're still here. My goodness, a broken toe. Like, oh, I know that was freaking painful.
It took 4 months before I could power walk again. I had no idea toes took forever like that. Everybody's telling me, oh, well, they take a while. They take a while. My one friend said, well, why don't you stay off of it? I'm like, really? How do you stay off of your foot for what, 8 weeks? There's no way. So I was hobbling around and it still doesn't exactly look the way it should. I didn't go to the doctor because as a former ER nurse, I knew they weren't going to do anything. They're going to just tape it together. And that's what I did. I taped it to the next toe and thought, okay, this too shall pass. But boy, I did not expect it to take 4 months before I could actually walk again. It took a long time.
Yeah. 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 And no matter what size of the toe either, even if it's a small toe, you're still screwed.
Yeah, you don't realize, how our bodies kind of work all together in tandem.
Exactly. It's like, yep, teamwork makes the dream work. That's right
There
indeed.
you
Keep all your
go.
appendages if you can.
There you go. That's right.
That's right indeed. So my goodness, you've been on a roll and been on a bunch of podcasts in the past, and you're probably hopping on a few more, if not a dozen more, with this new magical book. Is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're on these podcasts?
Oh man, Dom. I love to talk about the writing process because I think people are curious about how that works. And I know for writers, I know before I started writing, it always seemed like a mystery to me. So I do love to talk about the writing process. But honestly, I guess I don't have concrete like do this, do this, do that, because I think it is kind of a mysterious process, just like with songwriters, where do those songs come from that they just put down, or where do they hear the music? I think it's within them kind of thing, but I do like to talk about that a lot. And of course, I love questions about horses and just being a cowgirl, because I really feel I'm a cowgirl at heart. My first riding experience was on a Shetland pony that I chased down in a field when I was 5. Got on a rock to get on that little thing. I mean, they're teeny, and held onto its mane and walked around the field with it. So that has been my one true love. And I had my own quarter horse, and I think those are just really my fondest memories in my life, really, are with my horse. I mean, my kids too, but pretty special having a horse that there's something therapeutic about horses.
So my goodness, so does your riding process involve slow riding on the horse while wearing a cowgirl hat?
Well, it does for me. We're always working, right? We're always working. We can be lying on the couch, but we're working because we're riding in our hat. So it's kind of nice, when you're out there on the horse, I'm working. I'm riding and I'm working because I'm looking at nature, and I have another story in the book. I'll tell you this real quick. I know you probably have to go here in a minute, but it's called The Rattler and the Meadowlark. And on this one ride, there were so many prairie rattlesnakes. I am like freaking out because I mean, I'm seeing them. They're coming out and they're darting across the trail. And I was only with 3 other people. So there's 4 of us. And when we stopped and you quiet the horses, you can hear the rattlesnakes, they do have rattles. And 40 minutes of the ride, that's all I could focus on were the rattlesnakes. And I'm in this beautiful scenery. It was a gorgeous day with the clear blue sky. And then a little meadowlark, the bird with the sweet, sweet song, is on this sagebrush, and it's just singing its little heart out. And that kind of pulled me out of this obsession with these snakes, because I'm terrified of snakes. And, what's going through my mind is like, well, what if I fall off, or what if the horse spooks? And the reality is, here again, talking about fear and getting out of our heads, is that the reality is I've been riding since I'm 5 years old. I'm probably not going to fall off. This horse lives out here. I was on Emma. She's not afraid of those snakes. She's out in the pasture every night and probably sees a ton of them, and they don't bother her. And she could step on them with her hooves. So my fear was completely irrational. But then that is what I chose to focus on for the first 40 minutes of the ride. And finally, when that little meadowlark kind of pulled me out of that, like I want my book to do for people, pull you out of these destructive mindsets. And I realized, like, wow, listen to this bird and this sweet song, and look how gorgeous. I was in an area that it looked like Sedona, even though I was in Wyoming. It was by the Chugwater Formations, I believe it was called. And it was just beautiful. And here I am obsessing about the snakes. So those are, the things that come to mind when I'm in nature, when I'm riding. I do get stories and things that just come together that later I get fodder for a book.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Well, and speaking of fodder, fun question for you. If your wonderful book, Pray, Trust, Ride, if it was a food, what would it be and why?
It would be a honeycomb. It would be a honeycomb. That is what comes to mind immediately, because it is going to be hopefully sweet for the soul. It is grounded in nature, and I love nature. And so there's lots of nature in it. And I love the bees. So I would say it would be a honeycomb.
Somebody's been listening, because you didn't hesitate on that answer.
Did not hesitate. It would be a honeycomb.
Most folks be like, "Oh God, what a book is a food? What kind of question is that?" Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Steak and potatoes. I don't know what kind of book it'll be.
Honeycomb.
Like, that's right, indeed. And first one to refer to their book as a honeycomb, indeed. That's right, folks. It's a honeycomb, indeed. You will get all the sweetness. That's right, indeed. All the sweetness. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. The Empress with all the honey has given you some honey through the book. That's right, indeed. That's right.
For the
In.
soul.
Yeah, that's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Have your soul extra radiant. That's right, indeed.
Yeah.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive for round two. So you're called to give the last speech of your life. You get 90 minutes, and your audience is all 8 billion people on Earth. That's right, all 8 billion people on Earth. What will be the main message of that speech? What will the main points of that message entail?
It would be that no matter what happens in our lives, and I believe this, I think I did an Instagram post about it the other day, that it all boils down to it's between God and our souls. And so no matter what else in life you've got going on, truly in the end, that's all that really matters. We are going to meet our maker, and he's either going to be well pleased with us or not. So that is where I want to really focus on trying to be the best person I can be, to allow the light of God to shine through me. So maybe others will be drawn to finding the spiritual elixir for their soul, because I know I need God in my life, and that is it. And that's all that truly matters in this world.
That's right, indeed. It's all that really matters, indeed. That's right, indeed. Have God in your life, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That uppercase G, baby. That's right, indeed. Not the lowercase here. That's right, indeed. It's all about the uppercase here. That's right, indeed. Indeed. So, my goodness. So, for those who need to keep in contact with your journey this time around who weren't around for the first visit and be on the lookout for more work from you, what's the best way for folks to keep up with the lovely Lisa herself?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and website is lisaboucherauthor.com.
Woo! Well, you heard it right, folks. Head over to lisaboucher.com. Indeed. That's right, indeed. Buy a barn load of the books, y'all. That's right, indeed. Buy 5 barn loads, y'all. I'm telling you, for the magical
I
books.
really feel to kind of book it, want to buy like by the handful because it's little and your friends will want it and perfect for those Christmas stockings.
So there you go, folks. That's right. Buy a barn load of them, then get Christmas stockings, and then buy another barn load and stock them in each stocking around the wonderful barn. That's right, indeed. Buy 5 barns worth. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, by goodness, any parting words before we close up shop, Lisa?
And just what a pleasure it is to see you again and talk with you again, Dom. I really enjoy speaking with you.
Thanks a bunch for tuning in and setting aside some of your time to listen to this wonderful podcast, Going North. If you really enjoyed what you heard, do me a solid and share this with your network and someone that you care about that would get something out of it too. And be sure to subscribe to hear more, and heck, even check out the backlog if you would like, because there are hundreds of episodes to choose from, and they just keep getting better and not butter.